Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah you're well, guys. So today I wanted to speak about question practice. Now you've heard it from me many times before. You would have heard it, or you're going to hear it a lot from your tutors, that question practice is essential to ensure success in your exams. And let me tell you now that if you don't do any question practice and you're studying for the ACA or any other chartered accountancy qualification, you will not pass your exams. So I wanted to do a video on this today to really talk about the benefits and drill home the importance of doing question practice. Now, the first reason why question practice is so important is because it helps identify gaps in your knowledge. So when you revise, you're going to go through your course notes. You'll probably finish the material once and think, you know what, I know everything quite well. You'll move on to question practice, and that's where you'll realize, actually, I don't know everything quite well. There's some subjects, maybe on debits and credits as an example, I'm quite strong on, but I'm weaker on other areas such as the layout of the profit and loss statement. I remember, guys, when I was studying, I would go through the first few chapters of the course notes, but then I'd get bored, because it's very difficult to sit in one place simply reading your notes. So I'd want to mix things up, and I'd go and do some question practice in the ICAW question bank. Now, when I'm doing question practice, I'd fail miserably. Why? Because I haven't learned much of the content. So in that instance, I would actually go to the back of the question bank, look at the answers, and the ICAW are great because they actually have the pro forma and the calculations to get to that answer. And I'd learn by reviewing those. Now, why did I tell you that story? Firstly, because it's important to understand that not everyone revises in the same way. My way is a bit odd, but I found that to be effective for myself. And secondly, the fact that question practice helps cement your learning. The second reason why you should do question practice is because it helps reduce stress. Now, a lot of people will message me because they're worried about their journey, they're worried about balancing work with studies, they're struggling with exam content, it's not going into their head, or they're just unprepared or worried about the exam date. Now, two reasons why we get stressed are because either we worry about things which are outside of our control, or fear of the unknown. Now, if you do question practice, you're going to go through examples which could potentially come up in the exam. So you're going to be more prepared, resulting in less fear of the unknown. Now, you're going to say to me, Fez, absolutely agree with that. However, what happens if a question comes up in the exam that I haven't practiced before? I haven't gone through it before the exam date. What am I going to do in that situation? Of course, I'm going to stress. Now, firstly, I do agree that does happen a lot where you do a lot of question practice. You think you're fully prepared, but then in the exam, there's always at least one question which gets you. You're not prepared for at all. But in that situation, either one of two things can happen. So first instance is where it's a very short question. It's only worth 1 or 2 marks. You either get the answer right or you get it wrong. These types of questions are more common in the certificate stage or early exams that you take in chartered accountancy. Now, what are you going to do in that situation? You either know the answer or you don't. Are you going to stress and miss out on all the other marks that you could get? Of course not. You accept that you may not know the answer, you put in your best guess, and then you move on. You're not going to risk losing out on all the other marks because of the 1 or 2 marks that you may not know. Always remember, guys, that in the first 12 exams of the ACA qualification, the pass mark is 55%. And whether you get 55% on the dot or 100%, a pass is a pass. In the second instance, it could be a much bigger question, maybe worth 10 or more marks. But guess what? If it's worth 10 or more marks, there's likely to be a range of content that's being examined. So even if you don't know that particular area of the question, you could still maybe pick up 6, 7, or even 8 marks through the areas that you do know. When I went to college, the best words I heard from a tutor was, if you aim for 100%, you're always going to stress when you may lose out on 1 or 2 marks or don't know 1 or 2% of the content. But what you should be doing is aiming for about 75 to 80%, because even if you miss that margin, you've still got a bit of a buffer between 55% and 80% where you can still pass those exams. But again, guys, just want to say that doesn't mean that you focus on revising for 80% of the content. You still cover everything. The third reason why is because it gives you an opportunity to apply your knowledge. Now, when you go through your course notes, you may do some short format questions, you'll finish your course notes, and that will give you a false sense of security that you know this content. But actually, we know that after doing question practice, that's far from the truth. So as an example, say in this video, if I was talking about different tax rates, you'd watch this video, think, you know what, I understand what Fez is saying. I think I get it. But the minute I put a question in front of you, you may struggle. You may not know where to start. So this is why question practice is so important, because it trains your brain to recall knowledge and answer questions around what you've learnt. Another reason why is it gives you a great break from studying. So as I mentioned before, it's very difficult to sit down all day simply reading your notes. So when you start doing that, at the beginning, your brain is very fresh. So you'll recall a lot of the knowledge, things will go into your head. But as you go on throughout the day, your brain's going to get tired. You'll actually just end up reading the notes without actually registering the information. So again, question practice is very important here because it gives you a break from studying. And then when you go back to reviewing your notes, your brain is fresh again. So you're more likely to pick up knowledge. So this is also known as active recall, guys. So this is when you're stimulating your brain to recall information by doing question practice. When you simply read notes, you may not take information in. That's known as passive revision. But when you're doing question practice, you're testing your brain. Okay, how much of that information did I actually register? A lot of bigwig psychologists have done numerous studies around this, and the results are clear, guys, that active recall, i.e. doing question practice, is one of the most effective ways of revising. Another form of practice is by doing mock exams. So the ICAW will have a number of mock exams in place for each exam. I'm sure it's the same with other chartered accountancy bodies. And by doing mock exams, you're getting used to the layout, the structure, and the conditions you're going to be doing the real live exam in. So it's not only preparing you for the real test on the exam date, but it's also helping you avoid the situation where you may come across something that you're not used to, that you haven't seen before, and again, you worry over that and ultimately may end up failing your exam. The final reason why you should be doing question practice is because it helps improve the speed at which you answer questions. When you're going through your course notes, it's a pretty relaxed environment. You either go through it at your own pace or you'll have a tutor taking you through the course notes. The focus is entirely on accuracy, not on speed. But when you get to the exam, guys, it's going to be time limited. So you're not just focused on accuracy, you also need to be answering questions in a timely manner. And that's where question practice helps. By doing questions again and again and again, it will help improve your speed. You will look at the question and improve the way that you identify information quickly. You'll learn to discard information which doesn't matter, focus on the things that do matter, ultimately improve your speed when answering the question. But before I go, guys, I want to leave you with my own example because the proof is always in the results. So when I was studying for the ACA exams, alhamdulillah, although I had first time passes, I was pretty much a last minute revision type of person. So some exams I'll be extremely stressed over. Not only when I'm revising, but after I've done the exam, just being completely worried whether I've passed or failed. And often I remember I would get a close pass. So I remember the BPT exam in particular, which stands for Business Planning Taxation. It's one of the professional stage exams. I got 55 on the dot. Yes, I felt great, but I just about scraped that pass. But I remember a particular situation which I talk to students about a lot, and it really is one of the best examples of why question practice is so important. So I was studying for the financial accounting and reporting, audit and assurance, and tax compliance exams. So I had to sit 3 of the first professional stage exams together at once. I was obviously under a lot of pressure, but I made a clear timetable, I made a plan, I went through my course notes, and I put a lot of importance on question practice. These were the exams where I put in close to 100% effort. I tried my best, and alhamdulillah, I say it with sincere honesty that when I completed these exams, I was not stressed at all. I came out feeling good that actually, you know what? I think I passed these exams. And when the results came out, I got 65 in FAR, 70 in audit and assurance, I think, and 74 in tax compliance. I had to go back and look because it was numerous years ago. But I cleared those exams quite comfortably, right? 55% is the pass mark. Now, I didn't get close to 100%. I didn't get a certificate. I didn't get my picture taken. I didn't get written about in a magazine. Guess what? None of that matters. Because remember, guys, I always say a pass is a pass. Doesn't matter whether you get 55% or 95%. But a good example of when you're combining passive revision with active recall, inshallah, you have nothing to worry about. So guys, remember, when you're studying for these exams, spend a significant amount of time on doing question practice. But inshallah, I'll leave it there. As always, any questions or queries, please feel free to comment below or message me on Instagram.